Hey there everyone, welcome back to Toko's Reviews, and today we're going to talk a little bit about the Intel 10400. This is a i5 edition. As you guys all know, Intel has been coming out with i5s for a while now. I have previously owned the Intel i5 9400F and also the Intel i5 9600K. I'm going to do a little comparison to the new i5 10400 and see what's the difference, if it's worth the upgrade. And I'm going to let you decide at the end which one is better for you. So check it out.
They got all the people here, you know what I mean, just chilling. Then we got these fools right here, just walking around, just chilling right here. Got the athletic age, this dude's from Oakland. He loves Oakland.
6 million
The whole
ways to
crew,
die.
but check this out. We're gonna look back at this. This is a shoe club.
Reggae. Yo, watch rewind.
Okay, so we're going to start off with the Intel i5 9400F. And the reason why this is one of the first i5 Intel CPUs that I've ever owned when I got this in 2019. Also, the Intel i5 9400F is a 6-core CPU. It also has 6 threads. The processor base frequency on this is about, if I can remember, 2.90 gigahertz. Now the cache is only 9 megabyte, and the reason why I'm mentioning 9 megabyte, this is very good for browsing. But as far as gaming, I'm going to share with you in a little bit about how I feel about gaming, if it was worth getting this for that purpose, because I do a lot of gaming. But as far as browsing and looking at stuff, this will work fine. The bus speed on this is 8 GT. The Intel Turbo Boost technology is a 2.0 frequency, so this will boost itself up to 4.10 gigahertz. The TDP is not bad. It's only 65 watts, so this CPU does not suck in a lot of power, so it doesn't need that much power. But as far as browsing and looking at videos, this is great. But when you play games, I did notice sometime that I would find myself getting bottlenecked and getting some pretty big glitches when playing like Call of Duty using the flight simulator. Even though this CPU can handle up to 128 gigabytes of memory, DDR4 only clocked at 2666 megahertz. The max memory channel on this is only 2. The max memory bandwidth is not bad. It's 41.6 gigabits. So having said that, I'll let you guys decide if the Intel i5 9400F is worth upgrading to, as far as browsing and stuff like that. But in gaming, my opinion is no. This is not worth upgrading to from Intel i3 to this model if you want to play games. The second CPU I want to talk about is the one I got in the beginning of this year. This one is the Intel i5 9600K. This CPU is kind of interesting because its clock speed stock is at 3.7, so it's a little bit higher than the other CPUs. It does have 6 cores and also 6 threads. Keep in mind this is a K edition, so you can overclock this CPU. The turbo boost on this is 4.6 gigahertz. So it's a little bit lower than the Intel i5 9400F, but it performs better. The TDP on this is 95 watts. It's running a little bit hotter than the Intel 9400F. But remember, this came out in 2018, so this is one year older than the Intel 9400F. But this is the one that I liked a lot, and I still have this CPU to this very day. It is good for browsing, good for video, good for editing, good for 4K stuff, and also very good for gaming. And the reason why I say that, because on this specific CPU versus the other ones, the non-K versions, you can't overclock them, but this one you can. Therefore, you can get better performance out of this, especially when you're using a liquid cool. So it'll give you better performance. Just before I finish up with this CPU, I just want to mention, if you pair this CPU up, this Intel i5 9600K, with a good gaming motherboard, you can get some pretty good overclocking results. And with the right liquid cool, you won't be disappointed. That's from experience, and I just wanted to mention that. If you're deciding to get this CPU, it's really worth it. Finally, we just finished reviewing the 8th gen Intel i5 9600K and also the 9th gen Intel i5 9400F. But this one is a non-K edition. This is the 10th gen Intel Core i5 10400. The socket on this is a LGA 1200. So here we are. Do you guys really want to know the results? Do you really want this one? Do you really want to upgrade versus the Intel i5 9600K that I like a lot? Well, check it out. The specs on this, this came out this year. You get it for like $182. You can find this a little bit cheaper on Amazon, depending on the seller. This does have 6 cores, and with thread enabled, it has 12. So the processor base frequency on this is 2.90 gigahertz. The max turbo frequency is at 4.3 gigahertz. The cache is very important. So this is why the cache is important. This specific CPU that we're talking about now, the Intel i5 10400, the cache on this is 12 megabytes. So basically what that means, the CPU can handle a bigger bandwidth or a bigger data as it goes through the CPU, so the CPU can process it even more smoother. Versus the previous ones I talk about, the Intel i5 9400F and the Intel i5 9600K. Even though the K version, you can overclock it and get better performance than both of these CPUs, but the cache still remains at 9 megabyte each for the 9400F and the 9600K. So this one is more optimized. This one is very good, but at the end, the 9600K still beat this, even though it has lesser cache. But it's because you can overclock it even more to double up its speed. So that's why those things at play is very important to understand. You know, a lot of people would just run and get the highest stuff and thinking, oh, or get this or get recommendation from other people that think that the stuff runs good, and come to find out that it doesn't. They get disappointed. They buy it, they go return it. And you know, that's how things work. But you know, if you look at reviews, if you look at spec charts and stuff like that, and do a comparison, you can get an overall understanding of how these things go. Is it really worth upgrading? That's why for myself, I'm messing around with these things always, because I do have a general understanding of how these things work. So my final verdict for the Intel 10400 i5, is it worth upgrading? Yes, even though the Intel i5 9600K beats it because you can overclock it, but it's still worth it because this is more optimized for newer stuff, and as you can see, this has more cache. So just because of that 3 cache, it'll make a big difference in gaming. And I tried this out on Call of Duty. I tried it out on my Flight Simulator. I had no glitches whatsoever. So I know that this CPU is good. So having said that, if you guys like content like this, go ahead and hit that like button. And if you're new to my channel, go ahead and please hit that subscribe button. You'll definitely help me out. And like always, if you guys have any comments or any questions, please drop it down below. Olfato from Doko's Reviews. Peace.